This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 88 of the Jumble Think Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Jumble Think Podcast, the podcast focused on interviewing amazing entrepreneurs about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we'll give you some tips on how you can turn your own dreams into reality too. Today on the podcast, we are talking about taking time to recharge. I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, make sure you become a Jumble Think subscriber. It's super easy to do. Go to your favorite place to listen to podcasts and click that subscribe button. For iTunes, go to jumblethink.com/iTunes, and for Spotify, jumblethink.com/Spotify. It will take you right to the app, right where you can click subscribe. And while you're there, we would love to hear what you think. Leave us a rating and review of our podcast. Now let's jump into today's episode, all about taking time to recharge. Hey there, welcome to the Jumble Think Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have an incredible episode lined up for you today. Before we get going, we want to take a moment and thank our sponsors for today's episode, OpportunityInChina.com and Floxy. Here's a little bit more about Opportunity in China. Have you been looking for a way to change your career or social prospects? Do you see the world around you changing and haven't quite figured out what path to take? You are not alone in seeking opportunity. Visit OpportunityInChina.com for access to scholarships to attend university in China, or if you have a bachelor's degree already, OpportunityInChina.com provides access to jobs in the educational sector all across China. Working in China is not only often well paid, but it will place you among 1/5 of the world's population, boosting your social network, bringing you more deeply into the story of globalization, and opening doors you never knew existed. So seize your opportunity now. Visit their website for more information at OpportunityInChina.com. By the way, they have a great podcast. Search for Opportunity in China podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. We also want to take a moment and thank our other sponsor for today's episode, Floxy. Here's a little bit more about what they are doing. You have a killer idea for the perfect graphic or website, but you feel stuck and overwhelmed by the cost and skills it takes to create those ideas. Maybe you lack the time you need to create them. No matter the obstacle, it's time to get that idea created. And our friends over at Floxy can help you create those killer graphics, the perfect website, or even create the copy that's used on your next ad, all at a low cost, starting at $349 per month. Their on-demand, unlimited graphic design, web, and copywriting are backed by a 7-day money-back guarantee for all new accounts. And you'll be working with a dedicated US-based project manager assigned to your account. There are no hidden fees, and billing is month to month. So check them out for your next project and for the project after that too. You can find them at floxy.com, FLOCKSY.com. Let them know that JumbleThink sent you. Today on the podcast, we are talking about a very important topic. That topic is taking time to recharge. And taking that one step further, we're also going to be talking about setting healthy boundaries to your life as an entrepreneur, as a dreamer, as an idea maker. You may be asking, why in the world are we talking about this? Haven't you talked about rest in the past? Well, I have, and we're going to take a little bit of a different approach to this topic today. This all started earlier this week, this conversation in my head about taking time to rest and setting healthy boundaries when I saw Elon Musk's post on Twitter. Now, you probably know who Elon Musk is. He is the founder of Tesla and SpaceX, and he's done so much in the entrepreneurial space. But earlier this week, he posted on Twitter that no one changes the world working at 40 hours a week. He then went on to say a person needs to work 80 to 100 hours per week to change the world in his Twitter post. He also talked about how he works 120 hours per week, and that his employees at Tesla often work 100 hours per week at times when increasing productivity and production of the company's Model 3 sedans. Okay. So first off, Elon Musk is a rock star in the world of entrepreneurship. I don't know him, obviously. It would be pretty awesome if I did, but I don't. And I don't know what his life's like. I only know the stories that I hear from people who work with him, from people who have worked with him, and from those who know him from some capacity of their life. And let's be honest, he has done a lot, whether it was with PayPal, whether it's SpaceX, whether it's Tesla, whether it's one of his many other entrepreneurial endeavors. He's done a lot of stuff, and he truly has impacted this world in ways that we don't know what it fully looks. Is he the next Ford? Is he the next Steve Jobs? Is he the next whoever it is that you look to in the space of innovation and invention? I don't know. We won't know that for years to come. Probably won't know the full ramifications of what he's done and what some of these other leaders have done until we are long gone from this earth. But all that to say, that statement about you can't change the world working 40 hours a week, if setting that expectation that you've got to work 80 or 100 or 120 hours to actually make a dent in the world is a fascinating question. Is it true? Is it real? And we're going to go there. If you've been listening to the podcast at any length of time, you know that I am anti-hustle. And I think that Elon's post really stems from a culture that believes and buys into this system of hustle and grind and burning yourself till you have nothing else to give. Now, I am all about investing and putting the time in, putting the energy in, working hard, creating the things that you're supposed to do, and that when you leave this earth that you've left nothing behind. But does that really mean that you have to work 80 or 100 or 120 hours a week? Well, I think it depends on the individual and how they're wired and who they are and what they value. So let's go there. Let's talk about that. A great place to start this conversation is by talking about changing the world and what that looks like. I love people that impact the world, but many times the people that impact the world most won't be the people that are remembered in 1,000 years. They're not the people that will be remembered in 150 years. Their legacy will be something different than what many people think of when they say they're changing the world. So let's talk about that. Changing the world is all about leaving impact. We talk about it on the podcast as legacy. And what you do in this life matters, whether it's a small impact or whether it's a global impact. What you're doing is significant. And it doesn't necessarily take a specific amount of time to change the world. It takes a specific level of intention to change the world. We also talk about this as how you define success. And when Elon says stuff like you can't change the world if you're working under 40 hours, you can't make a difference if you're not working 80 to 100 hours, that's really toxic. It's really super, super poisoning. Because success is defined at the individual level. For Elon, he wants to work it out. He wants to spend every waking moment doing what he's doing, creating. That's how he's wired. But there is a cost to that. There is a cost to the fact that he's not resting. There are stories of him sleeping under desks, falling asleep during meetings, and all of us have seen the videos of him breaking down during interviews. And if you're paying attention to the news, you've seen that he's posted some crazy stuff on Twitter. I would suspect that these actions are a direct correlation to the fact that he is not getting enough rest. He's not taking time to recharge, and that he is running himself ragged. This is not a sustained entrepreneurial journey. The hustle and grind philosophy is not a sustainable journey. So here's what we need to do. We need to have the conversation of how do we define changing the world? All right, so I think of changing the world at many levels. And again, you have to define what it means for you. I look at my children and my family, and the actions that I take change their world. And they change the world of others who are watching me or engaged in friendship or community with me. because they see how I father, they see how I love them, and that changes the world. And for some people, that may impact them and challenge them to be a better father or mother. On the flip side, it impacts my children, being present in their life, being responsible for investing into them by playing with them, by teaching them, by doing amazing adventures with them. These will all define their life in ways that I don't think any of us truly understand. This is changing the world. It will have a ripple effect for all of eternity, because now that's left an impact on them. And when they go out into the world, that will leave an impact on the world around them, whether as a parent, whether as an employee or a teacher or a entrepreneur. That will leave a mark on their life in which they are changing the world around them. Changing the world doesn't have to be grand stroke gestures of innovation and earth-shattering experiments and invention. Changing the world and having massive impact starts with one person. It starts with the person right in front of you. I always say this: the most significant person at any time is the person right in front of you. And the reason is because they are the only thing that matters when you're in communication with them. They are your focus. And so when you make a change, you start with one person, and that ripples into multiple people. We have to get past this lie that changing the world has to be grand. It has to be massive. It has to be noteworthy to the point of history. But the reality is that's not true. It's simply a lie. It's an expectation that others put on us that we're not achieving the fullness of what we were created to do. Now, if you've listened to this podcast, if you know our story, if you know the passion of Jumblethink, you know that we believe in the dreams and what you were created to do. But what we believe in is that you're the one that gets to define that. You get to step into your created purpose. You get to find what we believe is the creator, who God is, and who he created you to be. You cannot let the expectation of others saying that if you don't live up to a certain level, then you are not achieving success. You are not changing the world. It's simply not true. The journey has to be sustainable. It has to be something that you can make a lifelong impact if you truly want to be living for the long journey, playing for the long game. For Elon, that's great. He can live the way he wants, but don't let that define you. You look at Tim Ferriss. He wrote a book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and he explored how can you work as little as possible to create something that has impact. It's the flip side. And for some people, either of these models is right. There are consequences to these actions and to choosing a specific model that works for you. If you grind it out like Elon or like so many of these other hustle and grind kind of people, then you are going to see impact on your personal well-being. You're going to see impact on your family, with your friends, with the people around you. On Tim Ferriss's model, that may work for you too, but it may not, and it may cause you to not reach the fullness there. And these are both just ways to approach the same problem, creating sustainable impact. I want to propose a different way. It all starts with you sitting down and figuring out what it is that you want to create, the lifestyle you want to create, the story you want to create. You've got to start by defining this for yourself. You can't listen to somebody's tweet. You can't necessarily read somebody's book and create the model that works for you. You can learn from these things. And as a good friend of mine said, you can always learn how to do something and how not to do something from someone. Well, you can learn that in both cases about how that would work or couldn't work for you. And so on this journey of creating this sustainable lifestyle that has global impact, you've got to define what global, world-changing impact looks like for you. I want to encourage you, as we make a pivot here, take that time. Take the time to define your success. Define the world you want to create. Define the story you want to create. And then from there, you can reverse engineer. What will it take? What will it cost you to create that life, to create that impact, to create that story? And then you can measure, is it worth that cost for you? And if it is, how can you get there? And if it's not, What do you need to pivot so that you can create that new story, that new journey that you need to go on? All of this takes time. When I talk about time to recharge is taking time to rest, taking time to sleep, taking time to be instead of doing, and just recharging your energy so that you can go on, that you can go for the future. Yesterday, we did a Facebook live with Barbara Ali. She has written tons of books. I think it was like 20 books. She helps entrepreneurs go on trips to have these entrepreneurial journeys where you're doing masterminds, where you're exploring the community, the culture, and using that to refresh you. Often the best ideas, often the best revelations come from moments of recharging. It's taking that time to have clarity, to maybe not even focus on the problems that you're facing or the issues you're having. And you just take time to refocus and hear that small voice that's speaking to you about the direction you should go and having clarity on how you should go forward. Now, that may be a pivot into something new. That might be an answer to a problem you're facing. That may be a change that you have to make in your life so that it's more sustainable. No matter what it is, taking those times of refreshing, whether it's an hour or a day or a week or a month, taking those times where you're focused on just recharging, bring a new revelation that move you into the future. In the biblical world, we talk about pilgrimages, which are going to places for discovery with the intent to learn. I did a pilgrimage to Hong Kong to serve people there that were in need years ago. And I went to serve. I went to love people who were hurting and broken. And what I got out of it was revelation into a new season of where I was going next, what I was creating. These were things I didn't even know were going to happen. And because of that pilgrimage, because of that removal from the daily activity, the grind of life, I had clarity about a path forward when all of a sudden I lost my job and I had to go do something different. It was amazing how having a retreat and having a season of refreshing, even in serving and doing things, that change, that refreshing, prepared me for the future. And so if you're grinding it out, if you're always pedal to the metal, if you're always going at full bore, you're never going to be prepared for times when things don't go right, when the world falls around you, or when you need to make pivots, because you're going to be responding instead of being prepared. And so this time to recharge, time to refresh, time to be fresh is massively significant to that journey of moving forward. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to give you some practical steps you can do. Number 1, don't listen to the noise of others. You need to find your voice. You need to find your story. You need to find the rhythm of life that works for you. You cannot define your success. You cannot define your lifestyle. You cannot define what changing the world looks like if you're defining it by the success or stories others are telling you should believe. You've got to find the right story for you, the right pace, the right positioning to move forward. So number 1, don't listen to the noise of others. Number 2, find time to just reflect and think. This will recharge you. If there are struggles you're going about, it's easy to just say, I've got to work my way through this, instead of stepping back and saying, I've got to refresh so I can go in with a fresh mind to tackle this issue. So if you're facing a struggle, if you're facing an issue, step number 2 is to step away from it and see it with clear eyes. Instead of attack, step back, think, process, reflect, and create a journey forward. Number 3 is kind of rigid and it seems unnecessary, but it works. So trust me on that. And that is schedule times to recharge, times to refresh into your schedule. If you don't schedule it, it won't happen. Being intentional is the only way this will happen. Things will pop up. Things will happen. Your focus will be required on something else. And all of a sudden, you've lost focus on recharging, finding clarity, on refreshing your life so you can move forward. So schedule it into your lifestyle. For some of you, that may mean an hour of day you're going to spend reading and journaling. For others, it means that once a week you're going out to dinner, maybe by yourself, just to sit down and eat and think. Or it could be going out and working out every day, going for a run for an hour. And for many of you, it's going to be longer seasons of rest and recovery because you've been grinding it out for way too long, and now you are spent. You have nothing else to give. How do you get refreshed? Well, take a vacation. And a vacation doesn't have to be going to some magical destination. It could be going and visiting family for some people. It could be taking time to go to the beach, or it could be just taking a week off and spending it around the house and being intentional about recharging what you're doing. So that's number 3. Make sure that you schedule in time to refresh. Number 4, break routine and location. Often you need to change to get refreshed and recover. That could be a change of location. It could be a change of pace. It could be a change of whatever you're doing. Change it. So break the routine, get into a new routine just for that short period of time to refresh, and be intentional about setting that time apart. I mentioned here it could be a break in routine, but it could also be a break of location. Location is a great way to get refreshed because it removes you from the daily grind, the daily situations that trap you into doing what you think you should do or what you have to do, and it doesn't give you that time to reset, to refresh. So simply by moving location and turning off the computer, turning off devices, deconnecting from the world will help in such a big way. So break those routines, break those locations. That's step number 4. Step number 5, our final step, is out with the old. So often there are things we need to move on from, that we need to close the door on, and we need to move forward. And those things cause us to run at super heightened, faster paces than when we need to. So be aware of what's going on around you. Be aware of the things you're doing. Shut the things out that you don't need to be doing, and get rid of those old habits. Get rid of those old tasks, the old things that hold you back. If they're not helping you, if they're not serving for the future that you're creating, close them down, get over them, get rid of them, and move on. So out with the old, step number 5. So step 1, don't listen to the voices. Listen to your rhythm of life so that you can recharge. Number 2, take time to reflect. Number 3, schedule rest. Be intentional about that. Number 4, break routine and location. Number 5, out with the old. So these are our steps for helping you refresh this week. It doesn't have to be a big jump. And that's one of the things that we talk about often at Jumble Things. So many times we think we've got to make big changes. We've got to make big steps in chasing those dreams and ideas. And because of that, we never move forward. We get stuck. So figure out a small change you could make. Maybe it's scheduling an hour to go work out, or go sit in a coffee shop and read a book. Whatever it is, start with a small thing if the big thing isn't tangible, and grow into the big thing. And if you're truly, really burnt out and you've just been working way too hard lately, maybe it's time to schedule those vacation days you have into your schedule. Check out and check into a refreshing new season so that you can move forward, so that you can create, so you can have clarity, so you can have focus for the future. These are so significant. This lifestyle of rest and recovery, massively important if you're going to be chasing big ideas, big dreams, and become the world changer you want. You can change the world in under 40 hours a week. I guarantee it. I am a big fan of Elon Musk and what he's creating, but it's one area that I definitely think he's wrong. You don't have to grind it out to change the world, but figure out what changing the world looks like to you and create a lifestyle that reinforces that story you want to create. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. I hope it's encouraged you. Before we wrap up, though, I want to take a moment and thank our sponsors for today's episode, Fluxy and OpportunityInChina.com. Here's a little bit more about our friends over at OpportunityInChina.com.
At the dawn of the 19th century, forward-thinking people moved to the commercial centers of Europe. Moving into the 20th century, America welcomed millions into the land of freedom and opportunity. It is now the 21st century. Many of the successes and fortunes of our generations will be made in China. To learn how you can seize opportunity in China, follow the Opportunity in China podcast. The Opportunity in China podcast is available anywhere podcasts are streamed, or you can visit our website at opportunityinchina.com.
We also want to take a moment and thank our friends over at Floxy. Here's a little bit more about them. Floxy is doing some really, really cool stuff. Did you ever need a graphic designed, a website developed, or copywritten, but found that the designers and developers were too expensive and often took a long time to get your project completed? Well, Floxy is your answer. Floxy is your unlimited graphic design, web development, and copywriting team. Plans start at $349 per month with no hidden fees, month-to-month billing, and you can cancel at any time. So check them out for your next project and for the project after that at floxy.com. That's FLOCKSY.com. And let them know that Jumblethink sent you. Now it's your turn. We want to encourage you, get out there, chase those dreams and ideas. Find ways to refresh yourself. The world needs you. The world needs people like you to step into their created purpose, into your created purpose, so that you can move forward and have the impact to truly change this world. Now get out there, chase those big ideas and dreams, and change the world around you.
Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.